Welcome to Soft Power, Strong Ties, 4 Consuls General on Building Local Global Connections. This is presented by Asia Society Northern California. This is an annual program that we look forward to every fall. This is also a sold-out event, so we're thrilled to have you with us in person. Welcome to our Seattle Center friends who are joining us virtually online. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome Honorary Chair Ken Wilcox, our board and advisory council members, and it's nice to see Martin Brown, the owner of this beautiful building, in the audience too. In addition to those that we have on stage, we welcome representatives from the following economies: Canada, India, Indonesia, and a special welcome to new Consul General Wardana, who arrived a few weeks ago, Taiwan, the UK, and Vietnam. At a time of heightened political tensions, the ability to build bridges through cultures, values, and exchange is what we term soft power, and it's never been more vital. This panel brings diplomacy beyond borders, leveraging public engagement to build understanding, dialogue, and collaboration. Our consulates serve as essential conduits, translating global connections into meaningful local impact, right here in the Bay Area, a global crossroads in its own right and a direct gateway to Asia. I'm Margaret Conley, the Executive Director, and on behalf of our team, we're thrilled to host this expert panel featuring from Australia, Consul General Chris Ketter, formerly a Queensland Senator. From Georgia, Consul General Levan Kulijanishvili, leading Georgia's innovation outreach, including a new innovation hub here in San Francisco. From Mongolia, Consul General Begzjav Munkhbaatar, whose experience spans governance, urban development, and cultural diplomacy. And from the Philippines, Consul General Neil Frank Ferrer, a career diplomat with extensive experience in foreign service across many parts of the world: Beijing, London, and Vancouver. Moderating tonight's discussion is Scot Marciel, former U.S. Ambassador to Myanmar and Indonesia. Most importantly, he is a Northern California Asia Society board member and our new Advisory Council chair. We have an hour for this program, which will end at 6 p.m. We're going to include robust Q&A from the audience. When it becomes time for Q&A, please raise your hand if you have a question. Ambassador Marciel, if he calls on you, wait for a microphone to be brought so our Zoom participants can hear you. Introduce yourself and do keep your questions as brief as possible. We're on the record and we are recording. Big thanks to the consulates for their support, for speaking and bringing the goodies that we'll have at the reception afterwards. I'm going to hand it off to Ambassador Marciel. Let's please welcome all of our speakers.
Thank you, Margaret. This discussion got me thinking about soft power. I was a diplomat for 37 years, and I worked a lot in soft power. I'm not sure I ever had a discussion about soft power. We never really talked about soft power that much, even though we used elements of it. So I thought maybe it's useful to talk about how at least I see soft power as a former diplomat. Hard power is a little bit easy. Hard power is military strength, economic strength, things you can kind of measure. And soft power, there's lots of different definitions, but to me, it's all the assets or attributes that a country has that might make it an attractive partner for another country or for other countries. So it can be historical ties, it can be culture, food, music, it can be people-to-people ties. It kind of blends into economics because I think business ties also are part of soft power and sort of the image that as a diplomat you might present of your country's business community. Can you present an image of an attractive partner in a business community? So today we're going to talk and get the views of 4 consuls general here about how they see soft power and how they use it, because using soft power to me as a diplomat, involves a lot of public engagement. You have a certain amount of soft power that people may just hear about in terms of culture, music, food, etc. But as a diplomat, usually you're out kind of highlighting it for people, whether in meetings with communities or in the media or whatever. You want to sort of market it a little bit, if you will. So at least that's how I look at it. And it's really important. It's hard to measure, but it is truly important. So I'm looking forward to the discussion and appreciate all of you for taking the time and sharing your thoughts. I'm going to direct questions to all of them, one question for each of them to answer. And because we're in California and not in Washington, D.C., we've agreed we're going to go by first names here. So excuse the informality. But if I can start with you, Munkhbaatar. All of you have big consular districts, very big and very diverse. Like Silicon Valley is very different than Stockton or Seattle or wherever you might go. So different potential audiences. I'm curious whether there's any particular communities that you focus on in your engagement. I forgot to mention also the diaspora communities. So I'd be curious if there's a particular focus of your engagement.
Thank you, Scott, and I'm so happy to participate for this event. And the Mongolia is in Asia, Central Asia, between Russia and China. We are just a landlocked country. And this is a territory with 19th largest country in the world, but we only have 3.4 million population, very few population, landlocked country between Russia and China. And after 1990s, socialist system closed down, Mongolia transferred to a democratic country. If you see this, most of the countries who were under Soviet system, especially in Central Asian countries, turned to the more authoritarian regime, but Mongolia only became democratic country. Between in the superpower countries, we want to be a democratic country and wants to be a more, brings us more challenging to bring the value of democracy and free market and all these challenges Mongolia we are going through. And Mongolia is rich of natural resource. Almost the GDP is most of the mining, especially copper and coal and iron ore. And all of them we just import to China. There's no choice. You cannot take copper by plane, go to the different Japan, Korea, no choice. And Chinese won't allow this because they're controlling all the transportation. Therefore, our economy is completely dependent on China, and politically it'll still be support from petrol or electricity still from Russia. This is our geopolitical location. But for us, it's wants to be a more developed democracy, which means the value of democracy and freedom of right is very important. That's why then we have more politically and spiritually wants to have contact with this U.S. and especially this area. And that's why for Mongolia it's very important to human relation, build a relationship between people and NGOs and companies. That's why this was very important for education. The last 30 years, we send a lot of students to U.S. and also we promote, support in this education ties, also culture. People see us like Asian countries, Asian people. Maybe some of them you don't know, it looks like Chinese, Korean. But Mongolia still have this nomadic culture, nomadic people. This is a completely different culture, and therefore our culture is very, very interesting. We are through advertising the culture. We want to make the known Mongolia in U.S., especially in the Western regime. And because of this, special of our culture and also the nature, we want to support the tourism. That's why this is one of the very important areas we consider on. The last time, especially for example, this July, the Tang Center for Silk Road Studies at the Berkeley University, they organized 15 high school teachers to send to Mongolia. And I met them in July. I met all of them, and they're so impressed to learn the Mongolia, a lot of things. I hope they will come now the school is started. I hope that all the teachers sharing what they have seen in Mongolia to students who are studying, who are going to the school. Like this way we promote our culture and country through education and culture.
Great, thanks so much. Now, as Consul General of the Philippines, Neil, you've got, among other things, a very large diaspora community. I don't know if that is a focus of your engagement, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, or if it's other areas.
Well, firstly, thank you very much, Ambassador Scott, and good afternoon, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to see my colleague from Indonesia and Vietnam here, so my colleagues from ASEAN. Well, firstly, I would like to thank the Asia Society of Northern California, Margaret Conley in particular, for organizing this panel discussion. It's an honor for me to join you today and together with my esteemed colleagues, the Consuls General of Mongolia, Australia, and Georgia. I think you've given the answer for me, Ambassador Scott, when you were asking about the specific audience that is focus of our soft power engagements for the Philippines, and particularly for the Philippine Consulate General in San Francisco. We have a vast jurisdiction. We cover 10 states. So from here in San Francisco, Northern California, going up, so Oregon, Washington, all the way to Alaska, and then the mountain states of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and Northern Nevada. And within that 10-state jurisdiction, there are over 1 million Filipino-American. So given that reality, that's a primary focus for our engagements. Aside, of course, from engaging with the community in terms of providing consular services that they need, we partner with them in terms of promoting Philippine culture, history, heritage. And for us at the consulate, we try to reach out specifically to a specific sector within our diaspora. I would say the second or third generation Filipinos, Filipino-Americans. We do not want them to lose their connection with the Philippines. For the Philippines, we allow dual citizenship. So we encourage our diaspora to avail of that privilege. We have fantastic Filipino-Americans who have been very successful in terms of sports, the arts, and the various areas, and they can actually represent the Philippines in international competitions. And in fact, here in the Bay Area, we have a couple of Filipino-Americans who are part of Philippine international teams competing, and they do enjoy taking part in this. So they're proud of being both American and at the same time Filipino. So we share that, and we try to reach out to our younger generation. And very recently, we also arranged a special tour to the Philippines. Every year, we organize a tour to the Philippines. It's called Ambassador's Tour, or very important Pinoy tour. But this year, we gave a special emphasis on next generation Filipinos, so the younger generation Filipinos. We try to reach out to those who are seeking new adventures, new thrills, and we have come up with a very good package for them. So, and we're quite fortunate because we were able to attract also influencers joining that tour. So hopefully next year, once we organize again this next gen tour to the Philippines, we'll be able to invite more Philippine Americans, more of our diaspora taking part in these activities. Aside from our diaspora, we also, the second focus will be the rest of our stakeholders. So that includes, of course, the general public, whom we would like to have more knowledge or information about the Philippines, essentially sharing with them our culture, our food, our music, our dances, our fashion, and the arts. And hopefully, we could invite them to visit the Philippines as tourists, or if not, to do business in the Philippines. Aside from, of course, on the general public, and especially here in Silicon Valley, we give a special focus on startups, tech companies, big, small companies. We have been trying to reach out to them, essentially to forge, of course, partnerships, economic engagement, seeking opportunities for trade, business, and those things. And we combine both, of course, the information about the business incentives being offered in the Philippines if they would like to locate or to partner with our own companies and businesses, but then at the same time also introduce to them the unique Philippine culture, the special things that they can enjoy, for example, if they visit the Philippines. Very recently, Ambassador Scott, we have advocated or promoted a project by our trade department. It's called Geeks on the Beach. So we have invited tech founders, investors to meet up with Filipino entrepreneurs, startup founders, but the unique setting is on the beach, our award-winning beaches in the Philippines. So we have a couple of them. So not the usual meeting in a hotel or the usual meeting venues, but enjoying it more relaxed. in a beach. And yeah, we've had a good turnout for that one, and hopefully that will continue. So aside from those, the general public, the businesses, I would say the last particular audience that we specially focus will be the schools or the academic institutions. And we have a flagship partnership specifically with UC Berkeley, and we have here Professor Leloy Claudio, who is part of the Center for Southeast Asian Studies. So the Philippine government, very recently, we have supported the Philippine Studies program at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at UC Berkeley, and that encourages, greater understanding, awareness about Philippine culture, history, and identity. And aside, of course, from this flagship partnership with UC Berkeley, from time to time, we are active in terms of reaching out to schools, including high schools, including elementaries. We serve as speakers, myself, my colleagues, both from the tourism and then the trade department. We share information about the Philippines, our bilateral relations with the United States, and of course, the many opportunities and the unique things about the Philippines. So broadly, Mr. Ambassador, those are the areas that we focus in terms of our soft power engagements.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chris, from the Australian Consulate General, what's your thoughts on this?
Okay, thanks, Scott, for having us here today. It's great to be with the Asia Society. I also want to acknowledge my fellow Consul Generals and Consul Generals from Indonesia and Vietnam. It's a great opportunity to talk about this issue. The Australian Consulate in San Francisco is somewhat different in that we are operated by the Australian Trade and Investment Commission. So our focus is pretty laser-like on trade and investment outcomes for Australia. So when I first approached your topic, I thought, well, maybe I'm not going to have much to offer in terms of soft power application. But the more I thought about it, actually there is a lot that we leverage in the work that we do with trade and investment. So we have a similar consular coverage, Pacific Northwest, Northern California. We have a consulate in Los Angeles as well, where we divide the state. And so in terms of what we do here, we're, as I say, focused on trade and investment with a particular focus on critical technology. And we're very focused on helping Australian startups come into the market and work out their approach, all of the things that they need to think about in being successful in the most exciting tech market in the world. So critical technology is a focus, quantum AI, particularly where Australia has strengths. We also focus on defence and space and security, and that's an area that I've been particularly involved in. We're also interested in net zero, the transition to renewable energy, and how we can leverage investment from the US to assist Australia in our transition. And we also focus on agri-food and consumer products as well. So it's a fairly broad coverage. And so there is a particular focus on the business community. So you asked me, what are the audiences that we're focused on? The first one in particular is business and investors in the Bay Area. And we want to leverage some of the features of the Australian involvement with the US, which is the significant amount of investment that flows not only from the US to Australia, but also the other way. And it might surprise some people to learn that Australia is now the home of pension funds which are larger than the sovereign wealth funds of the Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar combined. So, and they're on a very strong growth trajectory. So we want to leverage that in our engagement, and we would like our funds to be partners with the considerable venture capital that exists here in the Bay. So that's one area of focus. The other area of focus is in the diaspora area, and this is where we tend to focus on cultural and sporting aspects. So Australians love sport. We just absolutely love it. And we, as a country, we like to punch above our weight. We're a relatively small country, 27 million people, but we do participate in sport very wholeheartedly. And this is an area that we really seek to engage, and our Foreign Affairs Department is really developing strategies around our sporting diplomacy. And particularly important as we lead towards 2032, the Olympic Games will be in Brisbane, and the pathway to that is through LA in 2028. So this provides us with opportunities. But there's some community groups in San Francisco that we engage with to highlight sports, and I'm happy to elaborate on that later on. And then there's the civic audience, if you like, and this is where we like to highlight some of the cultural things that are so important to Australians. One of the most solemn events in Australia is our Anzac Day commemoration, which we do with our friends in New Zealand, and we engage with the British and the Turkish communities as well as part of that. So that's a big part of our outreach, and we leverage the Australian American Chamber of Commerce. So we're very pleased to have a very active group of Australians, expats in the area, who have a very active Chamber of Commerce that we engage with them. In fact, they run our annual gala in February of each year. Next year will be our 50th anniversary of our having the gala, and so that's going to be a big event. It's hundreds of people come to that, and we like to honour some prominent members of the community at that point. So those are some of the areas that we focus on, and it's in doing what we do, we want to highlight the strength of the relationship between the US and Australia. It's a very, very deep relationship that goes back to the Second World War, very close defence relationship, and national security. We're a Five Eyes nation, and we want to take our place as a trusted partner for the US, not only in terms of the fact that we're a stable democracy and an amazing country, amazing people, but also we want to be seen as a source of trusted capital for the US economy.
Great, thanks, Chris. Levan, from Georgia, curious to, you have a strong business background yourself. I know, I'm curious to see what your focus and your engagement.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for organizing such a great event here. So before I talk about the audience, just a few words about my country, Georgia. It's a very small country, but with a big story. We're located, our geography, it's very interesting. We're located between Asia and Europe, so it's a very short route from China to Europe. So, and we have unique culture, very deep history. We are the country where wine born, so it's already recognized that Georgia, it's a place of wine, it's a cardinal of wine, and we have 8,000 years old winemaking tradition. On the other side, this is the country fast growing, which has a fast growing economy in the region. We're good in tech, in innovation, so we already became a kind of hub for trading, for logistics because of the geography. And we have very well developed financial sector, which is very well connected to the world institutions. So this kind of mix defines the audience we are approaching here. So we are very well connected to the startup ecosystem, to the tech leaders in Silicon Valley, who are curious about our tech development. Also, we have very close ties and close connections with wine community in Napa and Sonoma. with the universities also in terms of education and explore some kind of exchange student programs. And also diaspora. Diaspora, we have a very small diaspora here, but they are very engaged and heavily engaged in tech. We're connected with the Consular Corps, with the other diplomatic kind of missions here, having some kind of shared projects in culture direction. So in a nutshell, we don't have any kind of specific or we're not focusing on one direction or one audience. It's very diverse. It's very different group of people, and it depends what is the goal, what is the objective, what we wanted to deliver. So that's pretty much it.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I want to shift a little bit to sort of the type of outreach that you do to sort of take advantage, if you will, of your soft power. And I'm curious, in my experience, particularly over the last 10 or 15 years, we, the US, tended to rely a lot on social media, as well as interaction with regular media to amplify our message or to get our message out to these different audience. I'm curious whether how much you rely on either social media or engagement with traditional media to amplify your engagement.
I would say the social media, just all the countries, I think it's same. Now it's very important for us to distribute information using the Facebook or TikTok and YouTube. Especially we share this all the information through Facebook. The Mongolian Bay Area, Mongolian communities, what we are doing, what's planning, what's going on, and using this the social media is so grateful. I would say it's no wherever you can be, it doesn't matter. You can have this information. That's why we try to use more the social media.
Filipinos are one of the active users of social media, for that matter. So it's very indispensable for us to use the same platform to share, of course, our messages. And for us at the consulate currently, we use Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. I think eventually we have to use TikTok and probably YouTube, given the big number of active users using those platforms. But for now, we're just using these 4 different platforms. And we have about over 40,000 followers across these different platforms. Not so much, but I think it's a good starting number. But for us at the consulate, social media is really evolving very quickly, and you really need to provide timely information, respond, as much as possible to queries or concerns that will reach you. So for us at the consulate, we try to learn as much as possible to effectively use social media, but at the same time to train our people to, of course, analyze the different comments, reactions that we get in order for us to provide timely reactions, advice, and guidance to the community and our stakeholders, and if necessary, have meaningful engagements with some of them. Some, of course, are call to actions, either to participate in an event that we are organizing or to support this particular activity and the rest. At the same time, we also continue to engage with traditional media. And here in Northern California, we are quite privileged because the ABS-CBN North American Bureau is based here in the Bay Area. So we have very quick access to them, including the Filipino channel. And there are a couple of Filipino media outlets and print publications also based here in the Bay Area. So we continue to engage with them. And one specific activity that we have worked with them this year is in terms of overseas voting. We conducted an election, national elections in the Philippines last May, and we had to, of course, spread the word to our community to encourage them to register and at the same time to vote. And our engagement, both in the social media as well as with traditional media, has been very useful tools in terms of disseminating those critical, vital information.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Chris?
Yes, we tend to focus on X and LinkedIn. LinkedIn for promotion of our trade and investment activities, and X for more engagement with the broader community. And I probably just should mention, probably the highlight for us is our engagement with St Mary's College each year, where they have an Australian Heritage Basketball Night. And we discovered that probably about 25 years ago, the college started bringing in Australian students to their team, and it has built over the years to the extent now where almost half of the team, the top Division 1 team for the West Coast competition, are generally Australian players. So we tend to leverage that, and we've have an Australian Heritage Night around the time of our National Day, and it's a great event, and it is broadcast on CBS Sports. So we do get a fair bit of coverage. We highlight that on our social media, and it's an amazing collaboration. In fact, through that basketball program, I'm going to be talking a lot about sports tonight, Scott. So just want to.
I love sports. That's great.
Yeah, and through that collaboration, actually, the Australian Olympic basketball team had 5 alumni from the St Mary's College program. So three players and 2 on the bench coaching. So it's a very impactful program for us, and the community really gets into the game to the extent that if one of the Australian players scores a basket, then the crowd is trained to do a chant, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. So it's great, and I get to be presented with a signed basketball. So it's a very good example of organic community engagement, something that grew. We've taken hold of it, and we like to emphasise the strong engagement. But there are other areas. Similarly, we offer voting services for Australians in the Bay Area at time of federal election, and we had one in May, and so we used social media to promote that. Not only that, but the Australians are very serious about voting. It's actually compulsory to vote in Australia, one of the few countries in the world where that is the case. We are the country that invented the secret ballot, and we also pioneered the proportional representation system. So when Australians turn out to vote, it's a community event, and community organisations usually turn out and sell hot dogs and things like that. So it's actually been termed democracy sausage. So we highlighted democracy sausage outside the consulate in Market Street, and we engaged with a local Australian rules football league to run the stall. So it's there's a lot of examples of that sort of thing. We do, as I said earlier, engage with our Chamber of Commerce and partner with them in terms of social media opportunities. I might leave it there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. Levan?
Thank you. Well, I think media is crucial today, especially social media, where people can just get information, news, entertainment, even they're using for education purposes as well. You have a lot of kind of AI tools there, and you can create very beautiful story or content. But the trick is there, you never know where is this story is real or fake, or what is real and what is not. So, and because of that, we're trying to be and to keep kind of storytelling authentic and connected with the real stories, with the real life experience. And we are using several kind of channels like TikTok, as it already mentioned, and Instagram, Facebook, traditional TV media, but it depends what kind of audience we have. And we often encourage influencers to post the story about Georgia, whether they are visiting the country or whether they have a kind of experience now having a wine tasting tour or having kind of a cultural event or Georgian cuisine. So that kind of content really makes sense because it's a kind of real feeling and it create the tangible feelings for audience. So we're also using the very much traditional TV media, and one of the good example of it was the last year we used the 60 Minutes TV program where we shared our winemaking tradition, and it was high quality production and very good outreach and we already shared this to local channels, and we made the kind of story even bigger. Right now, we already launched the Innovation Hub, a Georgian Innovation Hub in San Francisco. So one of the big projects about the communication with the audience is we were going to run kind of a special series of the podcast series where we are going to invite not only Georgians and sharing some Georgian story, but also the people for local audience to make some connections between Georgia and Silicon Valley, between region and the US. So that's a kind of one of the big projects in our list. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I had a couple other questions that I was going to ask, but your answers have, I think, already addressed them, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And I want to ask about, I mean, there's obviously lots of opportunities with your engagement. There's always challenges too, and going back to my experience, I want to give one example. Consul General Wardana, if you'll forgive me, it is an example from Indonesia, where we did a lot of outreach. I did a lot of outreach. And one of the challenges was a perception that among some people in Indonesia, this is several years after 9/11, so the context is important. There was a perception among some people in Indonesia that the United States was not particularly friendly toward Islam. That was a huge challenge. Now, I have to say, Consul General, Indonesians have a way of being so nice about expressing their concerns in these ways that it was relatively easier than it could have been, but it was a challenge. And I'm wondering what you find in your outreach the most challenging, and maybe it's logistics or the fact that you have such a big area to cover. It doesn't have to be as quite as like something like I mentioned. What's the biggest challenge for you?
I would say there's the lack of information. There's the Americans have, especially the western area, just name it Mongolia, but there's the more information about Mongolia there is not enough information. Sometimes they mix in the north of China, there is Inner Mongolia, now they're a part of China, and people mix it, is it independent country or is it part of China, and you got this lack of information. Earlier I mentioned about this, the nomadic culture. What does mean nomadic culture? Yeah? We have seen these movies in Europe, and for example, Tbilisi, Georgia, they built a castle. In order to protect their life, they lived in this wall, thousand years. Then they learned to share common interest. Yeah? If you put garbage everywhere, disease would come up in sewage system. People say this, Korea, Japan, they're a farmer society. They have land, neighbors have land, forever neighbors. In order to harvest rice, they learn to share common interest. But nomadic life is one man with herds, another neighbor 5-10 kilometers. They don't share this kind of shared common interests. Yeah? This family living with 1,000 sheep and 300 horses, not human, not human. When they come to city, they have to share common interest. That's what the difference of still very few countries exist in nomadic life in the world. The one after Mongolians. When I see it looks like maybe Japan, Korean, Chinese, but way of life is completely different. That's why this information, lack of knowledge about this, I would say, the nomadic culture. So we have Mongolia very nice nature. Of course, every country has very beautiful nature, but nature is connected to nomadic life is very interesting for the people. But because of the lack of the knowledge of the people about Mongolia. Secondly, what I'm challenging is not Americans or not West. I would say Mongolians who are living in here, because I said Mongolians two kind of different mindset we have. This is nomadic mindset, one is settled mindset. I told before this Mongolia used to be part of socialist system. Above 40 years old people have socialist mindset, which means government has to support. A younger generation have a little bit different mindset. There's invisible mindsets, and come here in US and Bay Area. Also that brings problem for me to unite Mongolian communities. The culturally or experientially we are not really united. Also this, to do something, again go to community, bring them to unite. This is one of the challenges for me I'm facing.
Very interesting, yeah, thank you. How about for you?
I think as I mentioned earlier, we have a very big diaspora, and our diaspora is really very active. And in fact, here in the Bay Area, there are so many activities almost every week. Last week, for example, we had a very big parade. It's called Pistahan Parade. It's a 2-day event. We started with a parade from the City Hall, and then we walked down to Market Street all the way to Yerba Buena. So myself and my colleagues from the consulate and many Filipino groups took part in that. And it was a really very good event, but it's a challenge in the sense that you have to be involved, to take part, to actively work with them, to decide what will be the theme for this year, what areas should we going to promote, to emphasize, what are the audiences that we would like to reach out. And so it's both a challenge, but at the same time an opportunity, because we're able to really work very closely with the community and really have a platform to promote our culture, our heritage, our food, our fashion, and the rest. But the challenge of resources, I'm just talking here about the Bay Area, but we have a big jurisdiction. So at the same time, we have requests from other areas. So from time to time, we have to travel to the rest of our jurisdiction, and we try to maximize all our travels. For example, when we provide consular mission, consular outreach services, we try to take the opportunity also to meet with our community, to engage with them in terms of town hall meetings or just a short meeting to inform them about developments in the Philippines, to address any questions or concerns they may have, and to take part in other cultural activities that they are organizing. So, of course, it takes time, it takes resources, and you really have to dedicate a lot of time and people to really be more effective in terms of your engagement with the community. Of course, another challenge, and I think this is presented by the earlier topic that we had on social media, are fake news, and false narratives, being propagated by different groups or different sectors who have other agenda. So the challenge really for us at the consulate and the rest of my colleagues, I believe, is really to provide accurate and timely information, and to inform the public about what's really fake news, or what's really the real news. For example, recently there was a news saying that the U.S. government is revoking the citizenship of dual citizens. So some people were quite apprehensive in terms of their acquisition of Filipino citizenship. So we told them that is fake news, that is not true. So those things. So we really have to be on the alert to look after all this fake news, false narratives, false information being out there, so that we're able to really provide and present proper information to the public. And maybe lastly, I would agree with my colleague, Consul General of Mongolia, the lack of knowledge, not just about the Philippines, but for Asia in general. Probably not here in California, but in other areas within our jurisdiction. Whenever we meet, including with the business community for that matter, some of them are not aware about ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. When they talk about Asia, they only think about China, Japan, or Korea. So whenever I meet with them, I tell them that we have a very dynamic region in Southeast Asia, 10-member grouping of countries of ASEAN. And we have very good business environment. There are really great opportunities to do business in the country. Hardworking, talented people. The cost of doing business is very good. So, yeah, we really have to conduct a lot of information to share more about our own country, the Philippines, together, of course, with the broader economic grouping in the region where we are involved, and that is ASEAN. That's why I'm very grateful. My colleagues from Indonesia and Vietnam are here because for us here in San Francisco, that's one of our main talking points whenever we meet with different companies. So you can locate in the Philippines, but you will have the market of the rest of the ASEAN countries, including Vietnam, Indonesia, and the rest.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think it's fair to say that with the exception of this audience, Americans in general are not famous for their knowledge of the world, and particularly of Asia. But that's why the Asia Society and the work it does is so important to expand and continue to inform. Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And for us, having a relatively small diaspora in the Bay Area, I think the big challenge for us is the bandwidth, to being able to cut through in such a crowded marketplace. This is such a vibrant community. There is so much going on, and having the cut through is a real challenge. And that's why when you combine that with the fact that we are focused on trade and investment, our staff are working with businesses all the time. That's their measure. They're incentivized to do that. So we have to be opportunistic when it comes to opportunities for outreach to the community. And so things come along like I was told by the San Francisco Zoo that they'd collected donations from their public and from their staff for the welfare of koalas. And so they reached out to us to say, what would you like us to do with this money? So we were able to connect them to a institution back in Australia, which was a very grateful recipient of that, and that was $15,000 that was donated. So it's a wonderful exchange. It's outpouring from the Californian community, and I think it's an exercise of where some of these sort of cliches about Australia, koalas, kangaroos, it cuts through, and it's useful to a certain extent. But you're right, there is you have to work to go deeper and to inform people that there's more going on. I talked earlier about the sizable capital pool that we have in Australia, which is going to be important for the future. A lot of people aren't aware of the amount of innovation that goes on in Australia. Australian scientists invented Wi-Fi, the black box flight recorder, the synthetic skin for burns victim, the bionic ear. So there is a lot going on in our research institutions, our universities, and that's something that we need to promote. And a lot of people aren't aware that there are 8 Australian universities in the top 100 in the world. So it's getting that message across. We're not just beaches and great people, climate, great wine as well. Not as we compete with the Georgian, but we can have a fight out on that one. And there's our entertainment industry as well, which we leverage. So music, there's so many attractive things. Probably one challenge that we have when we talk to investors here in the Bay Area is that the prospect of a long plane ride is a little bit of a disincentive, but there's a lot going on when you get to the other side. And our job is to build that bridge between Silicon Valley and Australia, and I think we're making some progress there.
Great, thanks. Levan, your biggest challenge?
Well, I think we have a same challenge. I mean, what the Consul General of Philippines and Mongolia has just mentioned. So lack of knowledge about my country. So here people don't know where is the Georgia, and they mix up country Georgia with the state of Georgia. And when I'm saying that I'm from Georgia, are you sure where is your accent? So that's a confusion, but yeah, it's our job to raise the awareness about the country. But on the other side, many Georgians think that it's a market here in Silicon Valley. It's very robust and very competitive, and they're somehow afraid to enter here. And they think you need some good connections to come. Without that, you couldn't survive. On the other hand, people think that everything is simple. Everything is very simple, very automatically here. It's very smooth. If you are here, if you have someone, if you have a connections, you can get good achievements. But I think truth is somewhere in between. You need hard working, you need some good connections, you have to be very committed in your job. So that's our kind of mission, to somehow bridge these gaps and make sure that Georgians understand what kind of environments are here, and here people, Americans and other nations understand where is the Georgia. So that's a kind of...
Yeah, good. Those are all great answers. We've got time for a few questions from all of you. If you raise your hand, I'll call on you. It's always hard to get the first. Oh, we got one. Great. And could you please just, if you're directing it to one individual, please say so.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thanks for sharing your thoughts. My name is Girish Merchandani. I'm with the Westbridge Capital. We're a U.S.-India fund. The question I have, and I'm not sure who this question is for, is maybe someone can talk about one example of how you used giving back to demonstrate soft power. And what I mean by giving back, helping the less fortunate. Thank you.
That's an important point, because I neglected to mention early on, but assistance is also another form of soft power. And it doesn't have to be necessarily millions of dollars development assistance. It can be showing up to help a community that's been affected by wildfires or whatever it may be. So I wonder if any of you have any experience on that, and of giving back to the community in some ways.
I would say the Mongolian community is only 30 years history we have in US. And the Mongolia has the reach of the dinosaur fossils. And the last time in Los Angeles, the Webb High School, boarding school, they have this paleontological museum. And they're working with the Mongolian Paleontological Academy of Paleontology, and to bring a lot of dinosaur fossils, and having the giving opportunity for the children to come to see. And also they're cooperating with the Mongolian academic people. They're going to send Mongolian students to come in here, working with the American students, and sharing knowledge and experience with each other. And that was, I would say, this also the giving this back to community. And also this, as I mentioned, this Mongolians, we are the people of the steppe. If you can you imagine this standing on the saddle and running, riding horse and running against the wind, then you will just feel freedom. Yeah? And I hope this the Mongolian, the young people that's going to play soon the horse-headed fiddle, this will bring the Mongolian tune to this the crowded, busy city life. And I hope this also will give the music is also to relax you to give this opportunity for sharing the Mongolian culture, I would say.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to add?
Well, for the Philippines, we have a very generous Filipino-American community here, and they are really very quick in terms of responding to either disasters happening in the Philippines or a major calamity here in the United itself. specifically the one that you mentioned, the recent wildfire in LA. Our community have raised substantial support, and many also have volunteered, including those who are in the emergency services, firefighters, doctors, and nurses, providing their assistance and services to those in need. And of course, especially if the calamity will happen in the Philippines, they're also very generous in terms of providing assistance. And the Philippines as a country also, we are offering some training and scholarships for other least developed countries, including our friends and colleagues from Africa and some Pacific countries. So we, from time to time, we organize some of these trainings and activities shouldered and hosted by the Philippine government.
Great. Thank
you.
Chris?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for that. The best example I can give is something that our Los Angeles consulate was involved in with the LA bushfires some months ago. And what they did was they utilised their annual gala, which involves celebrities, movie stars, that sort of thing, to raise money for the victims of the LA bushfires. And in fact, there were 40 Australians caught in those fires that lost everything as part of that. But they raised money for the community. And it just highlights the ongoing connection between Australia and the US in terms of management of bushfires. We regularly send to each other fire crews when necessary to California, and they come over to Australia when it's necessary. So it's the interesting thing is, of course, that we both have experience in fighting fires with eucalyptus trees, gum trees, which are native to Australia. So they're quite dangerous at times of bushfire. So we share that experience and we support each other. And I think it's a great way to highlight the bonds between our two countries.
Perfect. Super. Levan, did you want to add anything? No? Okay. We're almost out of time. Time for one more question. Gentleman back there.
Hello, Mark Reifenizer, CSU East Bay student. In the wake of the United States cutting its U.S. aid funding and its capacity to use soft power, what opportunity does that provide each and every one of you?
You mean to kind of fill in fill in the void, if I can use that term, left by the end of USAID and so on? Anyone? It's a great question. I could talk for an hour about it, but I won't, because I don't want to get political, but it might put folks in a little bit of an awkward situation.
You go first, Neil.
Well, for the Philippines, we have a very active engagement bilaterally with the United States, either in scientific field, space, and the rest. I haven't seen yet the impact in terms of the cutting of the funding of USAID operations in the Philippines, but we have ongoing dialogue and discussions with the US and on different sectors of our bilateral relations. And I would say that for most of it, the cooperation and partnership are still ongoing, and we hope that the other projects and activities being undertaken before by the USAID will continue, probably under a different framework, name, or different agency implementing it. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Look, it's another great question. I don't have any specific responses to that, only I think I should acknowledge Australia is a generous donor of aid, particularly to the Pacific area, which we see as our particular responsibility to have leadership in that area. And so we will be doing also medical support as well. So I'm not quite sure of the impact that those cuts are having specifically, so I'm not able to really go into specific responses there.
Yeah. Okay. Great, good question. All right, we're about out of time. Let me turn it back over to Margaret to choreograph the next step. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
You all do so much and you cover so much. It's impressive. We really appreciate you. And it's a good reminder to all of us that the international cooperation often begins locally right here at home. So thank you again for that. Thank you, Ambassador Scot Marciel, in your new position as Northern California Advisory Council Chair, for moderating this discussion. A few upcoming events we want to invite you all to. We're launching a new tech series that's going to be next week. It's a 5-part series on AI, quantum, and more. It's a reverse talent brain drain, August 28th, right here in San Francisco. We have our 8-part U.S.-China Seeking Truth Through Facts program and executive roundtable we're hosting in Seattle on fostering innovation on September 30th, and Northern California members are able to zoom in and listen in on that. We're hosting a tech workshop in Washington, D.C., bringing Silicon Valley to the Capitol on November 5th, understanding China's tech competitiveness, and that's led by our senior China fellow, Mark Cohen. And our Seattle annual event, we're celebrating our 2nd-year anniversary. That's on September 9th. Our global CEO, Dr. Kyunghwa Kong, will join us. So please do, if you're in Seattle, come and join us. I want to thank our team, especially Evan Chan, for running this program for the first time, but also Christy, Amanda, Jason, Margaret, and Paul. And thanks to all of our interns and volunteers. Let's please hear it for them. And now for the next 30 minutes, we have a cultural reception. Thanks to all the consulates and their staff. We have right behind us here a live performance by the Mongolian Morin Corps, the horse head fiddle ensemble that the Consul General was just telling us about. We have wine from Georgia, which we also heard about all evening long, rice cakes from the Philippines, and Tim Tam cookies from Australia. Yay! So please do enjoy that. We have a sponsored dinner on the 9th floor at 6:30. So please join that for the folks that are joining us. Good evening, and thanks again to all the consulates.